All right, Warpugs. So, this is a SCP that I've wanted to learn about for a long, long time. This is an SCP that I have seen in the recommendeds for ever. Like, for literally ever. And I never seem to have time to sit down and look it over. I just never seem to have the time. But today I do have that time. So today we are finally checking out SCP-783. There Was a Crooked Man. It's a Keter class, uncontained SCP. This is going to be presented by the Volgun. Filch Hoff recommended this way long ago, and I am sorry it took me long to get this long to get to it. But yeah, I mean, this is a rather lengthy one. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna dive into this, guys. The Volgun is the perfect presenter for stuff like this, and with his voice acting and everything else like this, Filch Hoff said that this is one of the most horrific SCPs he's ever seen. And when I hear something like that related to SCP, the first thought that goes through my head is that this has got to be gobsmackingly horrible. So, with that being said, and with everything else being said, check the links in the description below. Leave a like and a comment for this because of everything, the more like ones like this that are just this long are kind of hard to get to flat out. But I'm glad to have the time to sit down and check this one out. The Volgun deserves every subscriber that he gets because, my God, it has been forever since I've wanted to check this one out. Well, let's jump into it. Warpugs, links are going to be in the description below. I highly recommend checking out the Volgun. I have one of his pieces back there. I wish I had it in a better spot, but I can't be too choosy with the recording setup I have right now. Hopefully in the future I'm going to have more time to put more stuff in the background, things like that. People have recommended me open up a PO box so you guys can send me stuff to put back in here. That would be awesome. But until such time as that, Warpugs, let's jump right into it. Oh God, here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-783. Object Class: Keter. Special Containment Procedures. Personnel must monitor the town of Tembe and continue to develop the entity's profile. Its victims are to be retrieved, incinerated, and cataloged in this file. Update. Due to recent events, a stronger Foundation presence has been determined to be necessary for the containment of SCP-783 and its related phenomena. An ancillary building near the local hospital, as well as 2 domiciles, have been commandeered from the locals for Foundation use. This property in its entirety has been redesignated as a Provisional Site 5.
Okay.
Description: SCP-783 is a hostile entity currently preying upon the residents of Tembe, a rural hamlet in Oxfordshire, England. It has a period of activity lasting roughly 70 days over the fall and winter months, occurring every 12 years. It exclusively attacks those who are alone and indoors after sunset. Buildings housing SCP-783's current target will experience a steady degradation of their structural integrity. Outwardly, this is visible as faults and breaks on the outer facade, which lend affected structures an angled or crooked appearance. This anomaly extends to any objects which reach the affected building's exterior, causing immediate and severe deformation that is invariably fatal to living subjects.
Ooh.
To date,
so guys, I do apologize if I'm coughing a little bit more than normal. Well, more than normal. I have been switching primarily to just complete water, which is a big switch for me because people have been concerned about my health and I'm taking them seriously. But every single time I don't drink something that can coat my throat a little bit, I start coughing more and more, and this has been the case for 15 years. So I did pick up some stuff from the store today, so I wouldn't be so messed up. I do drink I do drink sodas and stuff like that when I'm recording, but that's mainly so I don't cough while I'm recording. Gonna shut up. Yes. Let's go.
Personnel have yet to prevent an attack or been able to provide any means of assistance to SCP-783's targets. Due to this, as well as SCP-783's effects on recording equipment, little is known regarding SCP-783's exact appearance and the nature of its anomalous attributes. Victims of SCP-783 attack exhibit gross deformations in their body structure as the result of dozens of compound fractures along their long bones and severely displaced vertebrae. These are healed via the rapid generation of excessive cartilage and osseous tissue. Victims display hyperelasticity of their epidermis and musculature to accommodate the extra tissue, with one subject's forearm extending over 2.4 meters and another having a recorded height of 12.5 meters. The end result of this malformation and elongation are subjects who visually present as being wholly serrated or gnarled. Despite the nature of these injuries, most victims are alive after the cessation of an SCP-783 attack, though they often suffer full-body paralysis or remain in a persistent vegetative state. 27 living specimens have been acquired and placed on life support. They are held in a wing of the local hospital requisitioned for Foundation use. The residents of Tembe are aware of the existence of SCP-783, though speaking of it publicly is considered taboo. Researchers have documented a playground song shared among local youths regarding the anomaly. There lived a crooked man who made a crooked deal. He kept a crooked cane and his catch in crooked creel. He stole a crooked child who cried a crooked squeal, and that little crooked man was broken on the wheel.
Oh.
Observation. Incident log appended. A month prior to SCP-783's current period of activity, D-209 was selected from a group of volunteers to live in a Foundation-owned property in Tembe. Audio-video recording equipment was installed throughout the house for observation purposes. The following was recorded on the 43rd day of his stay. Video log. 2234. Second floor bedroom. D-209 is lying upright in bed, reading a novel. Living room. Live feed experiences a jagged vertical distortion in its display. This begins on the left of the frame near the front door and crosses over to the right side towards the hallway. It lasts approximately 23 seconds. 2235. First floor hallway. Floodlights from the window opposing the camera are obscured by something entering the hallway. A similar distortion effect occurs center frame, masking the object. The image quality further degrades before ceasing transmission. Second floor bedroom. D-209 jerks upright, alert. Claims to hear a slow, prolonged scratching sound coming from the first floor. He begins to get up out of bed.
Oh boy.
Note: SCP-783 manifestation confirmed. Visual distortion taken to be an indicator of SCP-783's physical placement within the house. 2236. Second floor stairs. Image becomes wavy and distorted. Movement can be seen, though the interference is such that no details can be made out. Second floor bedroom. Slow, deliberate footsteps can be heard ascending the stairs. D-209 attempts to open the window and escape, to no avail.
Oh, hell no, man.
2237. Second floor bedroom. D-209 procures a small lamp from the nightstand and makes several attempts to smash through the window. Second floor hallway. Sudden video corruption affects this feed as SCP-783 moves directly in front of the camera. The image resolves over the span of 33 seconds as it moves farther down the hall. At this point, the only affected area on the recording is immediately outside the bedroom. Second floor bedroom. D-209 freezes. A knock is heard at the door.
Okay, I'm seriously getting chills over here just listening to this. This is messing with my head because, my God, this is. This would be terrifying. Like, This is. This is worse than Predator type stuff right here. Like, you can't get away. He's trying to get away. He can't get away. It's there. It's coming for him.
2238. Second floor bedroom. D209 approaches the door, wielding the lamp as a cudgel. He asks for the individual at the door to identify themselves, receiving no response. He then asks Control if any personnel were able to gain entry. Observing personnel maintain radio silence.
Dicks.
D209 braces himself and grasps the doorknob with his free hand. D209 throws the door open. Note: a loud snapping noise is heard throughout the house. All light bulbs on the premises burst simultaneously, including floodlights focused on the property. 2240. Second floor bathroom. Once the camera adjusts to low light conditions, SCP-783 comes into view. It is near the open door to the hallway, motionless. Second floor bedroom. D209 is screaming, clutching his right arm. It has been fractured just above the elbow and dangles freely. It is observed to swiftly harden, presumably due to rapid bone growth. D209 shouts his intent to escape with his life and charges from the room. Second floor hallway. As D209 runs past the bathroom, a loud snapping noise is heard.
Oh my
D209
God.
falls to the ground and screams for assistance. He reports that his leg had been broken. Note: video corruption instantly begins to affect the kitchen as the sound is made, ceasing in the bathroom. 2245. Second floor hallway. D209 is able to bring himself to a stand. He displays his right arm for the camera, which has been broken below the elbow. It is angled in the opposite direction from the previous fracture. D209 curses observing personnel, but reports that his pain has mostly subsided. He limps towards the stairs. Second floor stairs. While trying to navigate the stairs, D209 trips and falls. 12 loud snaps are heard in rapid succession. Upon coming to rest, D209 exhibits several more fractures in various places along each limb. He screams as they set, and spasms on the landing.
God!
Second floor stairs. D209 begins to ambulate. He struggles to crawl, eventually passing out of frame. 2326. First floor living room. D209 can be seen dragging himself into the room. He strains, moving with great difficulty due to his cumbersome limbs. Each arm is estimated to be over 2 meters in length, with several inflexible brakes that inhibit motion around obstacles. First floor kitchen. SCP-783 demanifests. Visual feed clears. 2331. First floor living room. D209 occupies the majority of the living room. His lower legs stretch out of frame into the hallway. He has a hand on the knob of the front door, but the length of his fingers impairs the dexterity required to manipulate it. A scratching sound is audible in the hallway. D209 expresses distress immediately before being dragged backwards forcibly and off camera. He begins to scream. Note: SCP-783 and D209 remain in the hallway for the duration of the night. Snapping is heard intermittently. D209 ceases screaming at 0427.
Holy hell. They just let... Oh, God. I knew the Foundation were dicks, but this is cruel. They left him at that thing's mercy for almost 5 hours.
At 0501, a wet suckling noise can be heard, followed by rapid thumping. Incident 783.1. Concurrent with the noises heard at 0501 during the D209 trial, all 27 living victims in Foundation care went into seizure. Despite the fact that the majority were brain dead or wholly paralyzed, they convulsed for several minutes. 2 present researchers were injured during the incident.
I really don't care about the researchers that got injured because of this, because holy hell.
Life support systems for several patients were compromised, killing 5. A vast quantity of earth was disturbed on the outskirts of town during this time. Update. Personnel tasked with investigating the recent seismic event were met with resistance from Tembe locals, who crowded around an area in a field to the south of town. After a brief exchange, Agent Collins drew her firearm and discharged a round into the air. The crowd dispersed. Several elongated toes were immediately visible protruding from the freshly exposed earth. A dig team was assembled, and by the following afternoon had unearthed a mass grave, approximately 5 meters across, containing several dozen nude victims of SCP-783. The bodies were well preserved, yet desiccated. Their number was unable to be immediately ascertained owing to the fact that they had been piled atop one another. They were orientated head down, with their limbs extending deeper into the pit. Furthermore, most of the victims had become intertwined or knotted around each other, preventing exhumation without the use of sawing instruments.
Oh my god.
Researcher Singer elected to extract a tissue sample. During this process, the soil beneath him caved and he tumbled into the pit. The bodies shifted due to his weight. As he struggled to gain footing, the tangle of limbs gave way and he fell out of sight. Agent Collins promptly commandeered a length of rope and tied it around her waist. She tasked several nearby personnel with reeling her in upon her signal and entered the pit. Approximately 20 meters worth of rope was drawn beneath the corpses as Agent Collins descended. The line became taut after several minutes. She signaled for extraction and was recovered safely. Upon debrief, the agent testified to the existence of an anomalous locale, the entrance to which is located beneath the victims' corpses. A temporary leave of absence was granted to Agent Collins.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Singer's dead, apparently. My god, this... Okay, so I understand why this one freaked the requester out so much, because it's one thing to hear about, you know, hunting practices of certain SCPs and killing practices of certain SCPs, but this is just a force of nature, and I love every SCP that I've learned about. The ones that are beneath 1,000 are some of the best ones for me. Before a whole bunch, like, it's just, oh my god, this one's good.
Field logs. SCP-783-L1. Initial D-Class exploration for observational purposes. Retrieval of MIA personnel. Secondary objective. The following is the first recorded exploration regarding the SCP-783 case file. Please refer to the primary documentation for further information. Field Log 1. D-2172 is chosen to perform
I just had a thought in my head. What if this thing ever teamed up with the old man, 106? What would happen if 783 teamed up with the old man? That would be a match made in hell.
Preliminary observation of the subterranean Tembe anomaly, a large circular pit acting as a mass grave for the twisted and elongated corpses of past SCP-783 victims, all facing downward. D-2172 is suited in MOPP Level 4 gear and fitted with a retractable harness. Communication and video recording devices were hardlined through the tether. They were provided with a handheld photoionization detector, a Geiger counter, and other environmental testing apparatuses. They were allotted a basic survival kit as well as a Ruger LC9 and ample ammunition. Expedition was scheduled to commence at 0800 local time, but does not begin until 0835. This is due to a minor issue regarding D-2172's personal protective garments. Despite being of proper size for their frame, D-2172 proved incapable of fitting them on, even with the assistance of personnel. Larger gear had to be supplied.
He just didn't want to go.
Transmission begins as D-2172 is being lowered via crane over the pit of SCP-783 victims. They prod their foot into a fold between the coiled torsos of two corpses, which part. They look up and signal for the technician to continue. Visual feed reduces in clarity intermittently as limbs and bodies pass close to the lenses. 12 meters of tether are expended before daylight is completely obscured. D-2172's headlamp activates. Nothing of note can be seen from their position within the knot of corpses. Descent is put on hold when D-2172 begins to thrash. D-2172 becomes insistent that command resume the descent, and at a faster rate. They claim to have felt a hand caressing their back.
Hell no.
At 18 meters, D-2172 reports a sense of vertigo and expresses confusion regarding the direction of travel. After a brief discussion with command, it is determined that D-2172 had experienced an inversion of gravity. D-2172 manages to reorientate themselves and proceeds to climb upwards from their perspective in order to continue descent. Ambient light levels begin to increase as 20 meters of tether are expended. Daylight can be seen shortly thereafter. An overcast sky is captured as D-2172 breaks the surface. The surrounding area is partially obscured, however, due to the countless elongated arms extending upwards from the mass of corpses. D-2172 utilizes two of these appendages as leverage in order to fully extricate themselves. They slowly navigate towards solid ground. The area is seen to perfectly replicate the town of Tembe as it exists in baseline reality. D-2172 is standing in a field on the outskirts of town. To the north is a small stone cottage belonging to a Mr. John Myers, and beyond that, the main road into town. D-2172 turns for a panorama shot. Sparsely wooded areas and fields border D-2172's location in every other direction, confirming that this replication is absolute for as far as can be seen.
Okay, so this is another dimension?
Thermal and atmospheric readings match those in baseline. D-2172 disengages their harness, with audio-visual feed converting to a wireless stream via a relay device. D-2172 is then instructed to use their photoionization detector to take a head sample of the soil. While D-2172 is testing the sample, researcher Kest notices an oddity regarding the soil surrounding the mass grave on D-2172's end. Upon playing back the footage, dozens of marks can be seen in the soft earth. The pattern of these markings suggests that they have been created by fingers being drawn through the ground. This is noted by command. D-2172 is not informed of this development.
Dicks.
D-2172 reports that no contaminants have been detected. Command instructs them next to proceed to the Myers cottage.
This is gonna go
and
bad.
to remain vigilant for any signs of researcher Singer. D-2172 arrives at the cottage and knocks thrice on the door. They pause, awaiting an answer, and then proceed to enter. The cottage appears to be uninhabited. D-2172 rummages through the first room, finding nothing of note, and walks into the bedroom. On the wall over the bed is a rough sketch done in charcoal. It depicts the upper body of a reclined humanoid figure holding a rod or staff. Its free hand is outstretched above the headrest. D-2172 is instructed to approach and inspect the drawing. D-2172 is hesitant, professing to feel a great sense of unease while in the drawing's presence. They advance slowly. With each step in its direction comes a decrease in the quality of the video feed, which begins to break up. By the time the drawing is within arm's reach, the video feed is obscured by heavy amounts of static. The audio is drowned out by a shrill whistling noise. Before D-2172 can touch the drawing, command orders them to withdraw. They acquiesce and back away. Interference is reduced to nominal levels. D-2172 is permitted to exit the premises and explore the village proper.
I don't wanna.
D-2172 walks in silence for a few minutes.
I am gotta tell you guys, this is making me starkly uncomfortable. I mean, really, really, really uncomfortable.
It's before the road sign for Tembe becomes visible. They travel down a bend in the road, where on the ground they find a single work boot. Picking it up and turning it over in their hands, it becomes clear that it matches those belonging to researcher Singer. D-2172 intuits the direction Singer could have been traveling, and points out a nearby home. It is a two-story dwelling with a sizable front lawn, housing a wych elm. The tree is noticeably dead. The ground around it is littered with broken limbs. The front door of the abode is wide open. D-2172 heads towards it. Director Kim, at the time acting as command and overseeing the excursion, requests to be relieved of duty, citing the onset of a debilitating migraine. They are escorted to their quarters by Agent Collins.
Oh, I'm so sorry you have a migraine while he's in the middle of investigating this hellhole.
Researcher Bond steps in for Director Kim. D-2172 crosses the foyer and enters the living room. There are signs of previous struggle. The couch is overturned, as is a small end table. There is a hole in the wall in the bottom of the floor. D-2172 steps over the shattered remains of a tabletop lamp and into the adjoining kitchen. This room is in a similar state of disarray. Dishes, foodstuffs, and appliances that would have been on the shelves or countertop litter the floor leading back to the living room. Most of these items have incurred damage, suggesting that they had been stuck or thrown with considerable force. As D-2172 nears the sink, a small pool of blood can be seen on the floor. There is a clear pattern of cast-off spatter on the walls and counter, with long strokes indicating that an assailant delivered several successive blows with a bladed weapon. D-2172 kneels to take a sample of the blood, and upon standing, a butcher's block can be seen laying on its side next to the sink.
Okay.
All of the slots are filled, save for the one intended for a meat cleaver. D-2172 notes this fact. A series of passive bloodstains leads from D-2172's location and towards a door on the far end of the room. The door is heavily pockmarked and scratched, indicating assault. It is found to be locked from the other side. D-2172 attempts to kick the door in, but only manages to splinter some wood along the doorframe before becoming winded after 3 attempts. They
Kicking a door in is not as easy as it sounds.
walk back towards the other end of the kitchen, take a deep breath, and charge at the door.
Okay?
D-2172 shoulders the door at full speed, reaching it successfully. Their momentum carries them over the door's threshold, where they panic and brace the wall for support in order to stop themselves from falling down a flight of stairs leading to the basement. D-2172 gains their bearings and is chided for their reckless behavior.
Thank you,
Command
dicks.
instructs them to enter the basement. After trying the light switch, which fails to produce a result, they have a brief discussion with Command on the merits of documenting the contents of the basement, and they place heavy emphasis on the value of their own life. They are eventually persuaded to continue on threat of being cast adrift.
Thank you, dicks.
D-2172 activates their headlamp. They draw their firearm, disengage the safety, and carefully descend in a low-ready stance, hugging the wall opposite the railing. The basement is largely empty. D-2172 sweeps the area, and something on the ground in the far corner of the room glints under the light of their headlamp. D-2172 approaches and finds the missing meat cleaver wet with blood. They kneel to inspect the cleaver, and upon standing they notice a 1/4 meter wide hole in the concrete wall, an exhaust vent leading above ground. A piece of fabric is hanging from inside it. Closer inspection reveals it to be a pant leg. D-2172 pulls at their article, which is found to be a tattered pair of tan slacks previously worn by researcher Singer.
I see he shops at Old Navy. Moving on.
A rustling is heard from within the vent.
No, hell no.
D-2172 leans in to closer inspect, and something flashy can be seen which quickly moves up a bend in the pipe and out of sight.
Hell no.
D-2172 promptly withdraws from the premises.
Good man.
Due to the discoveries within the domicile, researcher Singer is presumed to have been killed in action. D-2172 is instructed to travel out of town in order to further document the nature of the area itself and determine its actual boundaries, if any. Little of note occurs for the next 40 minutes as D-2172 travels north and out of town down Tembe's main street. D-2172 is now outside Tembe's town limits, continuing on the main road which now winds through a densely wooded grove of silver birches. This geography remains consistent with that of baseline for the following 2 kilometers, at which point the forest gives way to fields. It is not until a small cottage is spotted ahead that D-2172 expresses concern. They stop and survey the surrounding area, revealing that they had somehow emerged back on the south side of Tembe.
Okay.
D-2172 conveys to command that they cannot see the limbs of SCP-738 victims, which should have been visible extending out of the body pit. They diverge from the path and run towards the expected location of the victims. Upon reaching it, there is a large circular area of overturned soil, and a distinct lack of corpses. There are no signs of D-2172's presence here either. A previously discarded sample bag, along with the relay device and accompanying tethered harness, are...
Okay, that picture's just too much. That is too... Okay, I think the reason this hits so hard is because this slaps of the Uncanny Valley. And if you don't know what the Uncanny Valley is something that looks human, but you can tell is not human. And this is really creeping me out.
Absent. D-2172 begins to...
I am so glad. I thought to myself, hey, you know, it's supposed to be really scary, so turn off the light, blah, 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 blah. Hell no, I'm so glad I didn't do that. I am so glad I didn't do that.
Panic, and is instructed to hold their position while command decides upon a course of action.
Tell him to kiss your ass.
Researcher Bond confers with the on-hand technician to confirm the status of D-2172's harness. It is relayed that it had not been retracted prematurely, nor had any length of tether been expended since D-2172 set aside their harness. After some deliberation, it is determined that D-2172 has possibly entered an iterative spatial zone situated adjacent from their original area of entry. It is then decided that exploration beyond this point would be best handled by personnel experienced with excursions of this nature. D-2172 was instructed to follow the road back towards the entry point.
This is gonna suck.
D-2172 is traveling down the road through the silver birch forest at a brisk pace, idly conversing with command. It is as they remark on the absence of any form of life that a rustle of leaves can be heard. D-2172 turns towards the source of the noise to find the naked body of an elongated SCP-783 victim. It is sprawled across the road.
I knew it was going to happen.
A few dozen meters away. D-2172 swears loudly and then turns to continue on the path. Another SCP-783 victim is stretched along the road before him, some distance away, also unmoving. D-2172 withdraws their firearm and takes a step towards it. A rustling and snapping sound can then be heard behind D-2172, who again turns to face the victim behind them.
No.
Although the body's position remains unchanged, it is clear that the trunk and arms had grown and elongated, twisting and breaking, placing them closer to D-2172's position. More snapping can be heard once again from behind D-2172. They rapidly turn and fire at the SCP-783 victim barring their path, whose neck had elongated and bent such that it placed their head roughly a meter away from D-2172 at eye level. Though several rounds are discharged directly into its face, it elicits no reaction. The snapping can be heard once again from the unobserved victim behind D-2172, who absconds from between the entities by running off the road and into the woods.
Dude, survive.
D-2172 runs for several minutes eastward, ignoring Command's advice to keep the road within view. They eventually stop to catch their breath and recuperate, coming to rest momentarily on a large rock. There is no sign of pursuit from the SCP-783 victims. D-2172 uses this opportunity to reload their firearm. Upon holstering it, they take some time to consume an MRE. They consult with Command on their relative position.
Now I know you're gonna die. You ate an MRE. You're finished. You're absolutely finished. There's no saving you.
And determine the proper direction of travel. A moment is taken to alleviate themselves, and they set off.
Oh my god. Like, I am getting so messed up in the head because of this. Because this, I can see why this one messed with the requesters so bad, because this is, it's something you can't avoid. This guy can't avoid. There's nothing he can do about this now. There's nothing he can do. Oh, this is messing with me so bad. This is the kind of horror that I like. You cannot escape what's coming. I know this poor lad is going to suffer.
The trek is largely uneventful over the next 14 minutes before D-2172 stops. They claim to feel minute vibrations in the ground, coming in short, punctuated bursts. Though they are assured that the sensation may be attributable to the unstable region of space-time in which they are in, something that should not be concerning, they insist on remaining still, listening. They inform Command of a muted thumping noise coinciding with the vibrations. This is not picked up on audio. They advance carefully, again readying their firearm. Off in the distance, the camera captures a single silver birch tree being lifted vertically out of sight above the tree line. D-2172 does not seem to have witnessed it. As Command attempts to communicate this to D-2172, it comes back down through the treetops, much closer to D-2172, and impacts the ground with enough force to shake the ground. It can now be seen that despite its thickness and mottled white coloration, that it is not, in fact, a birch tree.
What is
From
it?
D-2172's vantage point, it cannot be seen to have any branches, and it extends to a point somewhere above the canopy. D-2172 is instructed to approach and physically inspect it. Before they can act upon this, another such object comes down directly next to D-2172, knocking them to the ground. Once on their feet, they approach the second object. They pause once again to see the faint impression of ridges and grooves running along the object's side, and opposite of it, a flattish, horny nail plate. D-2172 fires at the object and draws blood. It quickly withdraws. A deep, protracted scream emanates from above D-2172, who breaks into a run.
Oh, God.
D-2172 runs through the forest, swearing incessantly and begging for some form of assistance or support from Command. As they run, more objects crash down around them, seemingly trying to hit D-2172 directly. They break from the forest. They are now on the northern outskirts of Tembe. As D-2172 hurries to close the distance to town, another of the unidentified objects collides with D-2172, knocking them on their back. The object comes to rest beside D-2172, taking up the majority of the visual feed. D-2172's gaze follows the object, tracing up its length. Without the obstruction of the canopy, it can be seen to bend and twist, terminating several hundred meters in the air. D-2172 screams when they discover its source. The nude form of researcher Singer is suspended high in the air, balanced on elongated and grossly enlarged fingers.
Bruh, I'm done. I'm done. I am so done with this. Oh my god.
Researcher Bond stands from her position at the control console, doubles over, and proceeds to vomit profusely. A member of medical staff rushes to her side in time to catch her as she falls unconscious. Dr. Peterson elects to take her place at the command console. Agent Collins arrives to help carry researcher Bond to the medical bay where she is to receive corrective treatment. The singer creature screams a hollow sound, lifting one finger from somewhere deep within the silver birch grove, felling several trees as they drag it towards D-2172. D-2172 rolls to their left and out of its path. They withdraw their weapon and fire at Singer, failing to hit their mark. The Singer creature can then be seen to lift its left hand, slowly dragging its digits together to grab D-2172. D-2172 swiftly comes to a stand and runs in the opposite direction. The digits can be heard colliding with one another behind them. They safely reach the main road and do not slow their pace as they follow it south through town.
Run!
Loud thumping can be heard as the Singer creature ambulates on their digits in pursuit. D-2172 narrowly avoids a finger as it sweeps past them to the right, crashing through a chain-link fence surrounding one of the houses. Another finger plummets through the roof of an abode ahead of D-2172. D-2172 swears repeatedly as they come around the bend where they found researcher Singer's boot. They pass the road sign, nearly falling as they trip over their own feet. D-2172's pace begins to slow as they are clearly becoming winded. The Myers cottage comes into view, and shortly thereafter, arms can be seen extending out from the body pit. Command encourages D-2172, urging them to reach the pit and assuring them that the technician standing by is prepared to reel them back in.
Thank you.
The Singer creature screeches. D-2172 is knocked aside with great force, tumbling into the field. Visual feed is lost due to incurred damage. D-2172 can be heard screaming and swearing, with ambient volume suggesting that they are getting farther and farther away from the recorder. The thumping of the Singer creature's fingers can be heard, becoming more and more distant as well.
This is
Silence
messed
is
up.
recorded for the final half hour. Dr. Peterson orders the termination of the audio feed and declares 2172 as lost. It is decided that D-21...
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're so happy that you came to that conclusion, that he's screwed. Could you at least just let him be, please? And just, I mean, you expended all these resources, all this other kind of stuff. Just let him have a chance to come back.
172's harness may be recalled for future use.
Oh, thanks, asshole.
Agent Collins arrives in the control room and discusses the matter with Dr. Peterson. Collins asserts that there is no evidence that D-2172 was captured or had expired, citing an ethics committee mandate on the exploration of non-incursive, extra-dimensional locales. They persuade Dr. Peterson to leave available D-2172's harness. Several personnel remain on hand over the next several hours. At 02:13 local time, the presiding technician reports that they witnessed the tether moving. After a moment of stillness, they are able to observe it becoming briefly taut as the line is tugged on twice, D-2172's signal for extraction. Medical personnel are notified, and it is anticipated that D-2172 will need to be tended to. After a minute, D-2172's empty body harness breaks the surface. It appears that none of the straps had been properly secured prior to being recalled. The harness seems to be caught on something within the pit. The tether continues to retract, revealing the hand of D-2172 grasping to the harness, which slips out of their grip. D-2172's hand can be seen to move animatedly, attempting to grab hold of something to keep it from slowly sinking back into the mass of corpses. D-209 rushes towards the pit, grabbing hold of D-2172's hand moments before it falls out of sight. They begin to sink into the knot of bodies as well. D-774 Dr. Lafayette and Private Audie quickly come to assist D209, forming a human chain, and with their combined strength begin to pull a pair of D-Class from the pit. D209 is successfully extricated, his arms are outstretched, hands still grasping that of D2172, whose hand comes back into view. As the four men pull, approximately 3 meters of D2172's forearm are dislodged from the body pit. It begins to bend and snap at several new points of articulation. D209 lets go. D2172 is reclaimed by the pit.
Oh my god.
SCP-783-L2. Special Operative dispatched to further ascertain the nature of SCP-783. The following is a second recorded exploration regarding the SCP-783 case file. Please refer to the primary documentation for further information.
You don't need to do anything else. Just send a nuke through at this point. Let's just stop screwing around. Send a nuke through. Napalm that entire pit. For the love of all that is holy, just napalm everything in there. Nobody's gonna be upset. Just napalm the shit out of it. Pour concrete in there. Throw in some rebar. Screw this thing in its entirety.
Field Log 2. Due to the events which transpired during SCP-783-L1, it is determined that the spatial zone accessible through the knot of corpses within the town of Tembe is likely recursive, being bordered on all sides by successive iterations of itself. Essentially, the dimension consists of perfect copies.
Be right back. My god. Well, I'm up late, and the hospital sounds like she's getting a little bit sick, so... That was the noise I was hearing in the background that kept on getting my attention.
Of a single cell in an endless grid layout. A special operative, or SO, would be required to effectively traverse the locale. Special Operative Nix is requisitioned from Site-121 in the United States. She was chosen due to her expertise in traversing extraspatial locales featuring recurring topology. Having personally mapped 27 iterations of SCP, engineered a supply line for Mobile Task Force Tierfing Black during their second tour of SCP, and having successfully navigated an escape route through Site during an emergency extraction of assets. After a full debriefing and several viewings of D2172's exploration log, Special Operative Nix spends her first week on site personally inspecting the town limits of baseline Tembe and denoting points of interest along the wooded outskirts on her personal map. It is only after she had acquainted herself with the local topography that she requisitions materials from HQ and makes final preparations for her dive into the Tembe Pit of Corpses.
So, she's going in. She's going in ready, which is good. I like hearing that she prepared. I like the fact that it shows how prepared she was for this. It's gonna suck, but, you know, good on her for being prepared.
On the 8th day, Special Operative Nix returns to the site with the following. Approximately 1,000 referencing exit markers, REM. A prismatic compass and map of Tembe. Sufficient rations for a 3-day excursion. Wireless audio-visual surveillance camera. An M10 14 shotgun with side saddle, 12-gauge buckshot times 16. A shotgun shell bandolier, 12-gauge buckshot times 20, and 12-gauge slug times 36.
Okay.
One 24-inch machete. And Unit K9121, a 2-year-old Dutch Shepherd, Tafos. Agent Collins is chosen to oversee command during the excursion, owing to the sickness which had affected her colleagues during the previous expedition's broadcast.
Okay.
Special Operative Nix spends an hour in the evening by practicing quick-load maneuvers for her firearm. By noon, she is outfitted in full tactical protective gear. Both Special Operative Nix and K-9121 are lowered through the Tembe mass grave, one after another at sunrise. Once within the Tembe replica, Special Operative Nix is able to repair the relay device installed during the first expedition by D-2172. The camera feed activates. There is a light early morning fog permeating the air as the feed activates. Special Operative Nix scans the surrounding fields and farmlands, identifying no immediate threats. There is no sign of D-2172. She turns and calls out to K-9121, who is partially obscured by the arms, reaching up from the body's pit tangle of corpses. As K-9121 comes around to meet up with Special Operative Nix, it passes beneath a low-hanging limb from one of the bodies, which breaks with an audible crack. The gnarled limb stops just short of touching K-9121 before it is swiftly severed by Special Operative Nix's machete.
Nice.
As the pair depart, intermittent cracks can be heard from the grounded appendage as it continues to convulse and fracture. The first 15 minutes of their travels consist of heading in a southeasterly direction, gradually identifying memorized aspects of the environment such as fauna and rock formations flanking the wooded path out of town. Due to the lack of life forms, the only sounds are crunching leaves as they progress. It is once a felled tree is spotted that Special Operative Nix identifies a point which should be in the northwestern area of the town. At this point, an REM is hung from a nearby branch. Special Operative Nix walks off the path and into the woods to further delineate the area in which the replicate Tembe ends, and the next cell in the grid begins. Special Operative Nix methodically begins canvassing the woods and cross-referencing her map, placing REMs to delineate the boundaries of the primary zone. K-9121 bounds through the woods alongside her during this time, occasionally sniffing the area. 45 minutes pass uneventfully until K-9121 pauses, alert and focused on an area off in the distance ahead. Special Operative Nix readies her shotgun, and the pair proceed with caution. Up ahead, a long, gnarled white shape can be seen snaking through the undergrowth and between trees, partially obscured beneath scattered leaves and detritus. K-9121 approaches within a meter of the object, before halting at Special Operative Nix's command. Upon approach, mottled white flesh can be made out, as well as varicose veins running across its length. The appendage trails off far into the distance and outside the boundaries of the primary Tembe facsimile on one end. The other end terminates in an average-sized foot nearby. At the beseech of command, Special Operative Nix moves to investigate the foot, which can be seen to sport a colorful tattoo encircling the shin. Closer inspection reveals it to be an oriental dragon, its mouth open and consuming the tail in an Ouroboros. This confirms the identity of the cadaver as being D-2172.
Oh my god.
Special Operative Nix asks command for orders concerning course of action. An alarm is set off within the base. Command is notified that Dr. Lafayette has escaped their quarters with the assistance of D-774. A search unit is deployed, and the residents of baseline Tembe are notified of the fugitives.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Receiving no guidance from command, Special Operative Nix states her intention to follow D-2172's limb through the woods and into the next cell in the grid. She calls K-9121 to her side, and they begin walking. 3 quick bone-splintering cracks can be heard behind the pair. Special Operative Nix quickly turns, drawing her shotgun to see that the ankle of D-2172 has snapped and twisted such that the foot is raised off the ground and slightly coiled, toes pointing in her direction. K-9121 puts itself in front of her, raises its haunches, and emits a low growl.
Good boy.
Special Operative Nix backs away slowly. She puts an additional 3 meters between herself and the foot, with no signs of further movement from it. She whistles for K-9121, and they continue following the limb. The two follow D-2172's leg for approximately 1.5 kilometers, where it then zigzags
Oh my
up a nearby
God.
incline, crossing perpendicular to a dirt path that ascends a rocky hill. Checking her map, Special Operative Nix identifies herself as having arrived at the base of Shallows Peak, Tembe's highest point of elevation, which lay to the north of town. She attempts to radio command to no avail, then reports that she will ascend the hill in order to use the elevation to canvass the area and provide a sitrep.
Well, there you go.
The ascent takes roughly 20 minutes. Dr. Lafayette is recovered by a Tembe constable after trying to enlist the help of local police. They are brought back to the base. Agent Collins leaves the control room in order to aid Dr. Lafayette and ensure he receives proper medical care. D-774 was shot and killed during the confrontation that led to Dr. Lafayette's capture.
Of course.
Their remains are returned to base. Cresting the second leg of the hill, the trail can be seen to lead alongside a rocky wall before ending at the mouth of a small cave. Special Operative Nix notes that this cave does not exist in baseline Tembe. As she nears the entrance, the visual feed degrades slightly. K9121 whines quietly and is assuaged by Special Operative Nix.
Okay.
In between static interference, the cave is seen to possess signs of habitation. To the right, the walls can be seen to have been carved to create small shelves, speckled with indiscernible filth. An ancient cast iron lidded pot sits in the center of the room atop a mound of partially burnt petrified wood encircled by rocks. On the left, discoloration in a roughly 3x1 area of the cave's rear suggests former existence of bedding in that corner, long since rotted away. Special Operative Nix takes 2 steps in before stopping short. She looks to K9121, who remains outside the cave entrance.
Get
Head
out.
lightly bowed and its tail tucked between its legs. Special Operative Nix heads over to K9121, kneels down and coddles the animal, petting it and commanding it to remain in place.
Get out.
Standing back up, she moves inside to check the shelves. Small bits of wicker, possibly some form of ornamentation, crumble upon being touched. Advancing to the pot, a carving can be seen on its side, which she inspects. She removes the pot's lid and gags. It is shown to be filled with a murky brown pool of stagnant water, within which floats several objects unable to be made out, until Special Operative Nix activates her headlamp and gasps at the sight of over a dozen small bones. Based off of the most clearly visible of these, an older, it is estimated that the remains belong to an individual no more than 2 months of age. The display is further plagued by static. Special Operative Nix replaces the lid and sets the pot down carefully. She pauses momentarily, partly stands and staggers, and then proceeds to fall to her knees and vomit profusely.
I don't blame
She
you.
curses quietly and sniffles afterwards for a minute, obscuring the camera feed as she wipes her face. Looking up, a small nook in the cave wall can be seen at foot level, beside where the bed previously lay. Something small and brown is inside it. Special Operative Nix takes a few deep breaths, then raises to a stand.
Okay.
Static builds as Special Operative Nix crosses over to investigate. She kneels, places her hand inside, and pulls out the object. The visual field is overcome by white noise, though Special Operative Nix can still be heard, who reports finding some form of diary. Flipping through the first few weathered pages reveals little of import. Any content that may have once been present has long since faded. She continues to scan the document when a hollow popping noise rings out. Turning quickly, no immediate threat or change in surroundings is seen. K9121 begins approaching cautiously. Another sharp, wet pop noise is heard. K9121 growls at Special Operative Nix.
Get out.
And glances about for the noise's source. It sounds off a third time, and the lid of the cast iron pot vibrates as it is struck from within.
Get out.
Special Operative Nix flees the cave. With D-774's remains being tended to by Director Kim, Agent Collins and Dr. Lafayette arrive at the control room. Agent Collins dons the headset and announces her presence to Special Operative Nix. Special Operative Nix has reached the top of Shallow's Peak by the time Command is able to reach her, and relays the events of the previous hour. From her perspective, she is clearly able to see both the replicate Tembe to the east, where she entered, as well as its iterative copy to the west, in the cell she now occupies. In a panoramic shot, a dozen windmills of further Tembe replicates can be viewed far off in the distance. She explains to Command that although the pattern of the surrounding areas supports the recursive iteration theory of this dimension's layout, that there are noted inconsistencies within the grid she inhabits.
Okay.
Beyond the cave, which did not exist in baseline or replicate Tembe, she points out a small grove of dead trees that seemingly has no parallel elsewhere in the grid. Similarly, Special Operative Nix claims to have spotted an unidentifiable structure in the town center of Tembe in her cell. Upon query from Command as to why there would be a deviation from the pattern, Special Operative Nix suggests that the presence of D-2172 across the boundary of two iterations may be causing fluctuations in the integrity of the grid cell she occupies. Likening it to cellular lysis, Special Operative Nix explains how the border between spatial zones could be weakened by foreign material occupying two cells in a grid simultaneously for an extended period of time, a problem that prohibited the building of Outpost 41 with SCP several years prior.
Okay, so this woman is insanely prepared, and I congratulate her so far on not losing her damn mind. Frankly, I would have been losing my damn mind at this point. She's good. This is only going to end in tears, but she's good.
Despite the instability of this cell, she posits that the deformations in this zone may be reflections of the historical state of Tembe, and therefore present a valuable research opportunity that merits further exploration.
Okay.
Special Operative Nix begins her descent. Small cracks and pops can be heard still reverberating within the cave as she passes. She does not look inside. Someone is sobbing.
No.
At the bottom of the hill, a path of dead grass and foliage can be seen where previously D-2172's leg had lain. K-912 sniffs about this area and begins following the trail further into the cell, in the direction of the next Tembe. The two travel at a steady pace, with Special Operative Nix checking regularly behind them as they progress. The forest slightly darkens as cloud cover obscures the sun. A sharp report of bone snapping echoes in the distance. Special Operative Nix holds her shotgun in a low ready position and double-checks the safety. Another crack. The splintering of bones sounds off repeatedly from an indiscernible source as Special Operative Nix levels her weapon, attempting to follow the noise.
No.
Another crack. Small branches and leaves fall and flitter about as the foot of D-2172 emerges from the canopy. Dangling from above, it quickly twists and breaks, turning to face Special Operative Nix with its toes. It is immediately met with 3 rapid bursts of buckshot. The appendage dangles loosely, dripping blood from its shredded remains. The foot is almost entirely destroyed, consisting of chunks of flesh suspended by the ankle, with only the posterior and anterior digits remaining. It lolls to and fro from the concussive force of the shots, swaying impotently. K-9121 snarls and barks at the appendage. Special Operative Nix keeps her weapon trained on it as the two work to carefully circumvent it.
Okay.
It is as they pass it that the appendage swiftly plunges into the ground, trailed by several meters of leg. The appendage is swollen from countless fractures across its length, giving it dozens of points of extra articulation.
Oh my God.
Special Operative Nix breaks into a run as the coiled mass begins to shift. The two barrel through the forest, K-9121 in the lead, leaping and dodging over obstacles in the terrain. Behind them, a furor of rustling and banging can be heard as the leg bursts through the foliage and violently rebounds off trees. tearing through the woods in pursuit. Special Operative Nix takes a sharp right, then a left, followed by another right, in an attempt to carve a path that would have D-2172's leg caught up and tangled between the trees. As K-9121 continued on a more direct route towards town, Special Operative Nix is now alone. There is a crash as the appendage ricochets off a nearby tree to her right, with the remains of D-2172's foot shooting perpendicular across her path, barring progress as the length of leg snakes behind it. Special Operative Nix transitions into a low slide, avoiding collision, and fires into the flesh of the leg. The leg convulses as she rolls, raises to her feet, ducks beneath the limb, and breaks off running. After 5 paces, the feet shakes as she is struck from behind and falls face first to the ground. Quickly coming to a kneel, her shotgun can be seen laying several feet away in the brush. As she begins to crawl towards it, there is a quick flash of mottled flesh across the feed. The limb crosses in front of her once, twice, 3 times. Special Operative Nix groans as the appendage warps around her.
Oh my
Looking
God.
down, it is clear that her arms are pinned to her sides. Her machete lay at her hip, inches from her grasping hand as she struggles. The leg pulls back, twisting in on itself ever further, coiling about her like a snake, jerking the feet about as she is spun backwards into its many folds. The twirling ceases, and Special Operative Nix screams as the limb tightens around her. The remains of D-2172's foot comes into view. It hovers before Special Operative Nix. There is a pair of cracks as the remaining pinky and big toes splinter and fracture, forming 2 sharp prongs that pinpoint her face. It rears back momentarily before it launches forward. Just as it is about to strike Special Operative Nix, there is a flurry of motion. K-9121 leaps from off-camera, catching D-2172's foot in its mouth.
Good boy. Good boy.
The limb writhes as the animal wrestles with the appendage. The leg loosens, dropping Special Operative Nix. The appendage twists and curls as K-9121 tears into it with his teeth, quivering in an unnatural manner. Special Operative Nix crawls toward her firearm as they contend with one another in the background. She grabs her gun and turns in time to see the leg sweep under the feet of K-9121, wrap around the canine and retract at a rapid pace. The dog yelps as the limb ensnares it and absconds off into the woods away from Special Operative Nix.
Oh no, puppy.
Agent Collins informs Special Operative Nix that she needs to progress towards the next town. She is advised to not follow the limb and to consider the animal a lost asset.
Go to hell!
Ignoring command, Special Operative Nix charges after the fleeing leg. The knot of flesh wrapped around K-9121 shreds a path through the forest, ripping through the brush and felling some of the smaller trees. Special Operative Nix curses and pants as she chases after it. The leg begins to draw itself upward to pull the animal's weight up alongside it and out of sight. As it drags itself away, the mass becomes caught up between a pair of trees positioned beside one another. K-9121 whimpers as the leg constricts in an attempt to squeeze through.
God.
Special Operative Nix catches up, discarding her shotgun and lunging forward with a swift blow from her machete. There is a high-pitched shriek in the distance. She strikes it again and again and again. She bellows a long scream as she viciously assaults the leg,
Come on.
cutting clear into the flesh and revealing bone. She
Come on.
hacks and chops and shouts as the dog whines and attempts to free itself. The leg ceases its attempts to pull through the trees and instead raises sharply upwards,
Oh, come
knocking
on.
Special Operative Nix away. The cries of K-9121 can be heard above her before trailing off into the far distance, out of
Oh,
earshot.
damn it.
Someone is sobbing.
Thank you.
Special Operative Nix screams in anger. She stands, shouting threats off into the wilderness after the leg, crying out for it to return, swearing retribution. It takes several minutes for her to calm down. She radios command, asking for help to hunt the leg of D-2172, and is denied. She is instructed to either investigate the Tembe in her cell or abort the mission, and chooses the former. She retrieves her firearm and continues progress.
We don't deserve dogs.
Given the distance traveled during the chase, it is not long before she is met with the farmland, which encircles this version of Tembe. Unlike the baseline town, the farmlands here are barren. Not a single piece of vegetation sprouts from the dirt, which is seen to appear dry and infertile as she treks onward. Entering the town, Special Operative Nix stalks silently through the streets. She rounds a corner, peering into the general store as she passes, revealing several SCP-783 victims pressed up against the plate glass. There is still another on the second story of the hardware store across the street. 3 more peer out from within a sedan half-parked on the curb, having crashed into a lamppost. Another is visible beneath the gate of a storm drain, its face contorted and pressed up against the bars, with enough force that bits of fat press upwards through them. None move to attack.
Oh my god.
A sudden cacophony of splintering wood and breaking glass interrupts the silence. Turning around, Special Operative Nix sees that the buildings flanking the end of the street have taken a broken, crooked appearance. Their foundations crumble, a hallmark of SCP-783's influence. Before Special Operative Nix can react, the pair of buildings collapse inwards, blocking the road she'd entered from. It is unknown if it is the sudden noise or the possible presence of SCP-783 itself, but the corpses spotted through the town begin to shudder violently. The trio in the car can be seen to thrash about wildly. Their bones break and snap and crack and rapidly heal and stretch. Within seconds, the entirety of the sedan is full of flesh knotted together and writhing. The windshield cracks from the pressure. D-774 enters the control room. Special Operative Nix continues towards the town center. It is here that a major deviation from baseline Tembe is discovered. In the center of the intersection, before the steps of the town hall, stands a sizable wooden platform supported on a large, sturdy base. Erected in the middle of the platform is a large, rounded contraption. There is an unidentifiable mound upon it. Special Operative Nix approaches, ascending the stairs, revealing the contraption to be a wheel with several spokes radiating from its center. The mound is a nude, disheveled human strapped to the device, face down. In each area where their limbs cross an empty space between the wheel's spokes, the appendage is gnawed and broken, with their left leg swollen and grossly extended. It trails off the side of the platform. Looking to her right, a singular piece of parchment can be seen nailed to a post atop the stairs. The document is a sensationalized proclamation of guilt, identifying an individual by the name of Hinger Woonibald. The paper denounces him as a highwayman, guilty of theft, child murder, witchcraft, and cannibalism. It finally goes on to state the ruling of his punishment, asserting that he is to be broken on the wheel. Special Operative Nix confirms with command that they have a clear capture of the paper's contents, before she casts it aside. She takes a moment to retrack her shotgun with slug ammunition and moves towards the macabre display. Prodding the corpse with the barrel of the gun elicits no response. She deftly circles around to its front to get a look at its face. Kneeling down, the visage of D-2172 comes into view.
This is easily the most disturbing SCP I have learned about in months. Like, this is on the level of the bodies in the water.
His face is bloated, features twisted in agony. Upon verifying its identity, Special Operative Nix follows the length of his leg with her camera, seeing it lead off behind a nearby building. She states her intention to follow it to K9121, but is interrupted by a low moan. Turning back, the corpse of D-2172's eyes focus on her. She reels backwards and discharges her weapon. Due to the close proximity, The shot removes the upper part of D-2172's head. The body gurgles and seethes as she stands and fires the next 2 rounds down into its trunk, causing D-2172 to spray a torrent of blood from the remains of its mouth. Special Operative Nix recoils as she is coated in these fluids, stumbling back. There is a sickening crack as the lower jaw of D-2172 contorts and lengthens along the right side, and another snap as the left half breaks and extends. 3 more cracks see the jawline widening and lengthening.
No.
It lashes out as she attempts a quick load, just missing her face and spraying yet more blood that obscures the feed.
No.
The sound of Special Operative Nix hurriedly descending the staircase is heard. While there can be seen to be movement on the camera feed, no details are discernible. The next several minutes consist primarily of audio as Special Operative Nix evades and combats the ever-breaking jaw of D-2172. All that can be heard are her shouts and cries, the breaking and splintering of bone, and the sound of rent flesh as Special Operative Nix fends off the attack with her machete. In the midst of the struggle, a lone shotgun blast rings out. The weapon can be heard clattering to the ground before all falls silent. The feed is darkened as Special Operative Nix rubs the camera, clearing it to the best of her ability. It will remain smeared for the remainder of filming, but the aftermath of the struggle can be seen. The jaw of D-2172 stretches from his corpse and crisscrosses through the intersection.
Oh my
Blood
god,
blankets the
dude.
majority of the area, and several teeth are visible, having been knocked from the gum line. Special Operative Nix is panting and heaving. She looks down, revealing that she'd lost an index finger on her right hand. She swears as she covers it with her free hand in an attempt to stem the bleeding. She canvasses to the ground for the lost digit, which is then spotted laying several feet away. As she rushes towards it, it seizes and wriggles, snapping and beginning to elongate. Special Operative Nix turns to retreat, dipping down mid-run to grab her firearm as she flees. Despite prodding from command, Special Operative Nix does not return to the execution platform to scour for more evidence. She instead rushes along the length of the leg trailing from D-2172's corpse. She curses over the radio at Agent Collins, casting her helmet aside. The last that is seen of Special Operative Nix is her running down a length of road alongside D-2172's leg. She follows it around the corner. Several minutes pass uneventfully. The leg of D-2172 then shifts and gyrates, slapping the ground with excessive force for approximately 30 seconds before becoming still. A minute later, the lens spontaneously cracks.
Okay.
There is heavy breathing. Someone is sobbing. The area darkens as it is cast in shadow. The feed terminates as the camera is destroyed. Special Operative Nix is deemed absent without leave.
Absent without leave. Is that what you're going with here? Is that what you're going with here?
With the nature of the dimension fully understood, it is determined that a fully armed force would be required for the capture or elimination of SCP-783.
Nuke it.
SCP-783-L3. Mobile Task Force deployed to contain SCP-783 pending declassification. SCP-783-L4. Okay, this concludes today's lecture. Thank you for listening, if indeed you still are, and you are all dismissed. Goodbye.
Okay. This one was legitimately creepy on a level for me because she went after the dog. I lost more respect for the Foundation than I had. Um, even as prepared as she wasn't ready for that. Um, there is so much to say that I have to say about this particular SCP. This one is disturbing for a number of reasons to me. Something crawled on my leg just there. I think I got it. Something doesn't need to be crawling on me right now. I don't know what that was, but hell no. So I've been around when bones have been broken. It's not exactly a pleasant experience. It is not a pleasant experience to watch or to hear or anything of that nature. It is actually quite disturbing. Um, the sheer fact that this thing, whatever it is, does this, and oh god, the thought of that, the thought of a leg chasing you through the forest continuously, cracking and popping and snapping. That is not exactly something that I want to sit there and have in my subconscious for any length of time, Warpugs. It's just not something I want there. This is easily one of the most disturbing SCPs I've ever listened to, flat out. Now, it talks a lot about something called the wheel. I know a little bit about that, but let me just go into it. So, this was a punishment that was in France, and they were placed on a cartwheel with their limbs stretched out along the spokes with 2 wooden beams. And then they would just turn the wheel. And then if you're... they would beat you with hammers. It's actually one of the, like... It's one of those medieval torture devices that, quite seriously, you wonder how in the hell we got as far as we have as a species once you learn about them. Because they found very, very, very inventive ways of causing pain to each other. They found extremely inventive ways of being assholes to each other back then. Warpugs, medieval life sucked. I'm going to head out from here. All the Volgun's links are going to be in the description down below. Leave a comment. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you've gotten this far, let me know that you were there at the end of the Crooked Man. Warpugs, I'm going. I hope you have a good night, day, or whatever it is. Oh my god, not another one like this one for a bit.